The boarding pass tore in half before she could even react. The sound was sharp, violent, final. Gasps echoed across the terminal as the airline agent held the ripped ticket in the air like proof of a crime. Security stepped closer. Passengers pulled out their phones. Someone whispered that it looked fake. She stood there in her tailored purple suit, one hand gripping her handbag, the other frozen midair, stunned, humiliated, exposed in front of hundreds of strangers. The agent's voice cut through the silence, accusing her of trying to scam the system. The officers moved in, and then she slowly reached into her purse, not for another ticket, but for something that would change every single person's expression in that terminal within seconds. Before the story continues, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Black Legacy. Your support helps bring these powerful stories to light. Airports have a strange energy. There are places where power quietly shifts hands, where uniforms carry authority, where policies can feel heavier than people. That morning, the terminal buzzed with movement. Business travelers rushed past families. Announcements echoed overhead. Gate B22 flashed on the screen behind the counter. She had arrived early, calm, composed, unhurried. Her name was listed in first class, confirmed seats, verified payments. Everything was properly documented. Yet, the moment she stepped forward, presented her ticket, something in the agent's demeanor changed. The smile faded, the eyes narrowed. The boarding pass was scanned once, then again, then a third time. A small frown formed. Instead of calmly rechecking the system, the agent leaned back slightly, studying her as if the problem wasn't a scanner, but the person holding the ticket. Other passengers began watching. Whispers started. The agent announced loudly that the ticket appeared invalid. The word invalid hung in the air like a stain. She politely insisted it had been purchased directly through corporate booking. The agent didn't soften. Instead, she called a supervisor. And that's when the tension began to thicken. The supervisor didn't ask many questions. He barely looked at the confirmation email displayed on her phone. Instead, he focused on policy, on tone, on suspicion. Security was called as a precaution. A precaution as if she were the threat, as if standing at a counter with a legitimate boarding pass made her dangerous. Passengers began recording, openly now. No one intervened. No one questioned the escalating tone. The humiliation wasn't loud. It was procedural, measured, cold. And when the supervisor finally made the decision to physically tear the boarding pass in half, he did it as if he were correcting a mistake, not creating one. The sound echoed louder than any announcement. What none of them knew was that the woman standing before them wasn't just another passenger. She wasn't just flying first class. She was flying on an airline she had quietly rebuilt from near bankruptcy 3 years earlier, and she had chosen that morning to travel without announcing who she was. The officer stepped closer. One positioned himself slightly behind her, subtly blocking the exit path. Another asked for identification. Her pulse quickened, not from fear, but from disbelief. She had spent years restructuring this company, replacing corrupt executives, revamping internal culture, investing in staff training meant to eliminate exactly this type of profiling by assumption. Yet here she was, being treated like a fraud. Her assistant had warned her not to travel without notifying the executive team. She had insisted on anonymity. She wanted to observe operations naturally. She wanted truth, and she was getting it. Raw, unfiltered. The supervisor continued speaking, louder, now defensive, asserting authority for the watching crowd. The implication was clear. He believed he was protecting the airline, protecting policy, protecting order. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Some looked sympathetic. Others assumed guilt. No one imagined a reversal that was seconds away. She finally reached into her handbag. The movement made one officer tense, but she moved slowly, deliberately. She removed a slim leather card holder. Inside was a metallic executive access badge, not a standard employee ID, not a visitor pass, a board-level authorization credential. The supervisor scoffed at first, assuming it was another attempt at deception, until he saw the name, until he saw the corporate insignia embossed in platinum, until he recognized a signature, his own CEO's signature, her signature. His voice faltered. The crowd sensed shift instantly. Phones tilted closer. Security stepped back half a pace. But she wasn't finished, because humiliation like that doesn't evaporate with silence. It demands acknowledgement. She placed the torn ticket pieces gently on the counter, not angrily, not dramatically, deliberately. Then she asked the supervisor to call the executive office line listed on the internal contact directory. He hesitated, hands slightly trembling now. He dialed. The line rang once, twice, then connected. The voice on the other end addressed her by name immediately, respectfully, formally. The color drained from the supervisor's face. The surrounding officers exchanged glances. Passengers began whispering, louder now, confusion transforming into shock. She took the phone briefly and confirmed the details of her itinerary, then handed it back. The supervisor's posture changed entirely. Authority dissolved. What replaced it was something far more uncomfortable realization. He had publicly humiliated the person who owned controlling interest in the airline. But more importantly, he had demonstrated exactly the kind of unchecked bias she had been trying to eradicate internally. The agent who ripped the ticket stood frozen, her confidence gone, her earlier certainty now exposed as assumption. Security retreated fully. The watching passengers lowered their phones, stunned. And then came the moment no one expected. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She didn't fire anyone on the spot. Instead, she quietly asked a full incident report protocol to be initiated immediately, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability, and accountability was far more powerful than anger. Within 48 hours, the footage from passenger recordings had circulated internally, not publicly. She ensured it remained an internal case study. The employees involved were placed on administrative review, pending bias retraining and conduct investigation. Policies were rewritten. Discretionary authority at ticket counters was adjusted. Mandatory de-escalation training became required nationwide. But the most powerful change wasn't procedural, it was cultural. Word spread quickly among staff, not about a firing, not about punishment, but about the fact that leadership was watching, listening, experiencing the company from the ground level. The humiliation she endured became the catalyst for systemic correction. Months later, employee surveys reflected measurable shifts in service fairness and complaint resolution. The supervisor kept his job, but not his old mindset. The agent completed retraining and later sent a written apology. And the woman who stood silently in that terminal returned to flying anonymously from time to time, not to catch people failing, but to ensure dignity wasn't conditional, because discrimination rarely announces itself loudly. It hides in tone, in assumption, in who gets the benefit of the doubt and who doesn't. That day at Gate B22 wasn't just about a ripped ticket. It was about a mirror being held up to power. And sometimes the most powerful words in a room aren't shouted. They're revealed quietly, unexpectedly. I own this airline. If this story moved you, take a moment to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Stories like this remind us why dignity, fairness, and accountability matter everywhere, especially where power goes unchecked. Subscribe to Black Legacy and join a community committed to reflection, awareness, and real change. Because sometimes the person being underestimated is the one rewriting the